They look very much like your... Great. I'll delete that.
If you're suffering with drift on your Joy-Cons, or worse still, you already replaced the thumbsticks and you've got that drift coming back, then these might be just the thing for you. Hi and welcome back to the shed. I'm Joe Bleeps, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to replace your thumbsticks in your Joy-Cons. Yes, I've done this before, however this time we're doing something a bit different. These are Hall sensor joysticks. It means that they are using magnets to transfer your movements to the console, in simple terms, instead of physical contact, which means nothing to actually kind of start making the wrong sort of contact, which means no drift. Let's take a look.
Okay, so I have done videos before where I've replaced the thumbstick in a Joy-Con. Clearly these two are in need of a replacement anyway, but both of them are suffering massively with what these things are very prone to, which is drift, which means that a particular direction is kind of seems like it's held down all the time, even though the joystick is right in the middle. And no matter what you do to try and reset it within the calibration settings, it always just drifts off and it drives you mad when you're trying to play. So yes, I've done videos on replacing these sticks before, but it's the sticks themselves that I'm concerned with today. So what I've got here is some Hall sensing joysticks. Now these have been around for a little while now, and I've bought them not long after they came out, but I've just not had the actual Joy-Cons to repair, but these two I've had passed on to me for repair, so they are perfect candidates to try this out. And the thing about these Hall sensing joysticks that makes them different, physically they look the same, but inside, instead of it relying on a physical contact inside to pass on whatever movement you're making here to the circuitry, what these use is magnets. So I recently got the retro flag switch joystick thingy, which is an entire dockable system which uses Hall sensor joysticks. And not only am I not worried about them having drift, but also they just feel fantastic to play with. They're super responsive. There's very little in the way of dead zones. So I'm curious to see how these are going to be. So we're going to have a look at them. We're going to install them in these Joy-Cons and we'll try them out on my Switch and see how they feel. And then obviously long term we'll see how it goes. But the idea of it being the magnets is that we won't have any issues. Okay, so it's a whole little kit. We've got some replacement screws, which is good because one of these is actually missing the screw. We've got some pretty hideous thumb grip caps. Pretty standard to get screwdrivers, but you don't always get these tools, so that's pretty good. We've got the tweezers and I've got the little thing to prise apart. The screwdrivers actually look all right. They feel like decent quality, but we shall see. So in here, we've got the actual sticks themselves. They look very much like your standard thumbsticks, but they've got the text on them there with the brand GuliKit. Which one should we go for first? Let's start with the blue. Let's just get in there. Yeah, these screwdrivers are actually pretty good, because the thing about these is they are very small and they're very easy to strip the heads if you're not careful. So although it'll separate here, it's kind of held together with little clips here. So that's where this comes in, and it'll just glide around the edge and pop the bits apart like that, and you should be able to just lift that off. And watch out, because there are two ribbons connected inside, so you don't want to like completely separate it straight away. On the inside then, we can disconnect those, but let's get in on the battery first. Now you don't want to damage the battery, so I'm going to use a spudger just to get in here, lift it out. This has been taken apart before, so it's not held in place particularly strongly. And there is a little clip that holds that in place. So I can just lift and pull that out and then put the battery to one side. I think I'll zoom in for the next bit. Okay, so we've got this sort of subframe assembly here that's held in with a couple of screws. It's a while since I've done this. So now that we're inside, we're on the crosshead screw. And again, you've got this button held in place with a ribbon, and that ribbon overlaps this one that we've got here. So we need that ribbon removed because there's a screw underneath it. And to remove that, so that flicks back, and then you just tease out the ribbon. Then that one will go out of the way for our screw. just the bit that pops up, and that'll just slide out to the side. And then you've got like this is where the tweezers come in handy. So you can see here that the screw post is actually broken off on this one. Unfortunately, we've still got the little bit there, so I'm going to have a go at gluing that back on. I'll just move this out of the way, and I've got my Mitre-Fast glue on here. Got a little spare scrap of solder just for moving the glue around a bit. We'll just nudge that in place here. This was originally stuck down, but it's not anymore because it's been opened up a few times. So I'm just gonna clean up the surface there, and then smudge that over a bit. So now that's held a bit more securely in place, it should be a bit easier to get the thumbstick in, which is what we're going to do next. So that's going to go this way around. Just carefully pop it through our opening. That is now in position, and I've got my joystick in. So the first thing I'm going to do with these two little screws, that's one in. Now, am I worth putting the ribbon in first or second? I guess we'll find out, won't we? So let's just try and get this in the right hole here. You do get like a little bit of a bump, like the ribbon is just that little bit long. You can tell that there's a decent amount gone inside for a connection. So it's not like it's not gone in enough. We'll just put the little clip back down, and that will hold this in place. This one goes back in here. Use the tweezers to guide it in, and that folds over on top like that. Then we've got to reconnect the other bits. First of all, we've got these two quite big ones that are coming from the side here. Take that one, carefully pop it in here, and with that in, try and hold it in position while you click the other bit down. Same with this one, but the clip on this one is on the other side. So instead of clipping towards, you kind of clipping away. But the same principle really, you push it into position once you're happy with where it is. Flick the clip down, and that should hold it in position. Got my shoulder button that goes back in like that, and then this one, but we've also got this bit to go back in, so I'll do that first. This is where these tweezers kind of come in handy because you can hold both sides at the same time, get a little bit of pressure on it. They are tiny little ribbons, so they are going to be really fiddly, but just be patient. Don't overforce it. Like if it feels like it's gone in enough, it's probably in enough. Fold the clip down, then this goes in here with the ribbon behind it, and we'll just get it all in position, make sure everything's lined up correctly. So if it doesn't feel like it's lined up, it'll just be the little pivot point on this, and then we've got the screws to go back in. So there's two that are the same and one that's further in, and the one that's further in is like a really short one. I mean, you can actually do that before putting the clip on. Now I've got 3 left, so I've got 2 here, this one here, and this one. Ready for going back together now, aside from the battery. So getting the battery back in, it's where the spudger comes in handy. So it just clicks and pushes straight down, if I remember rightly. And then the battery in place. Bring the lid back over, carefully make sure this bit here is aligned. It kind of slots in place at a particular angle. You got to get that inside there, and once that's lined up, these sides will clip back together. Now in this case I've just got 3 screws, and we know now why the other one was missing, but because I got a bag of spare screws, I can use a spare screw, and that spare screw is actually a crosshead, so I might end up doing that on all of them. It'll just make it easier for getting apart next time. So that's all back together. quick check on all my buttons. Everything feels okay. Thumbstick feels nice and clean and tight. I don't think there's any charge in these, so I'll have to connect them up to the switch in a moment. But let's jump straight on to the next one. This one, by the way, it's a good idea to just throw these out, because if you don't, next time you come to do one of these jobs, you can't remember which is the good one, which one isn't. Now the red one. Very similar, but this one's got the little infrared dealy, so it's a little more complex. So this one's got all of its screws using my tri-wing bit. Right, so that's those off. And again, what we've got to do is try and separate those. So that's where this comes in handy. Just wiggle in here, separate that, and then in at this gap, and then work your way around. That'll pop and separate those bits. And again, you're connected by ribbons when you open up, so you don't want to rock the boat with those. Now this time, rather than getting straight into the battery, we've got to remove the little sensor bit that's near it, but hopefully, because this one's been opened before, the battery's not going to be too difficult to separate out. And again, it's a case of carefully lifting it off the board like that. Now that we're inside, we are on the crosshead screws. We've got one here, one here. Oh, there's one here as well. This bit lifts out. It's got the shoulder button attached with a ribbon as well. So I don't know whether I would have been better trying to separate that. Let's have a look underneath here. I remember last time this one was really fiddly, but it is worth getting out of the way. You can't quite get underneath with that spudger there. There we go. And then just carefully nudge the ribbon out. Get that to one side to get across with later. Now that we're in, this one should be quite a bit easier. So we'll undo our little tab to release our ribbon. You notice there's a bit of a kink on this, because this was a replaced one already, I think. And then the crosshead there to remove that. Carefully lift that through and get the ribbon out. This one, the little dust shield is actually crumbling apart, but it is secured in place, so that's not going to give us any issues. So yeah, that was our other faulty one. So we'll pop that out of the way and get our new hall sensor stick. We know it's the right one because it's got the GuliKit logo on it there. I'm going to try it differently this time, see if I can do the ribbon first, and then we'll see what works better. I think this is probably the better way of doing it. It's in place, give it a gentle tug. Yeah, that seems fine. Put it through the hole, get it in position, and start to get my screws in. So that was these two. I kept those handy because I knew they were going pretty much straight back in. Now we've got our annoying ribbon to try and get back in. So this is going to be a pain, but let's go in being positive. Lift up the clip. I've got that kind of lined up. It's on its side. I'll just gently try and work that in and just pop our clip down. Those clips are super delicate, so you're worth taking your time with it, because if you damage it, once it's damaged, well, let's not go there. Again, make sure you're lined up with the corner there. That's all ready. So we've got 1, 2, 3 screws here. Shout out to Jim and George for absolutely battering these Joy-Cons, racking up far more hours on a Switch than I would ever manage. Right then, let's just get that in position there. And get the battery in first. That just drops in, and then this one, just the wire follows the little channel there. So that's all back in. You get the little wire, sits in a channel there, goes along, the little receiver goes there. So everything looks like it's in position. We'll just bring it round again, get these to slot in at either end, make sure they're hooked in, and then you should be able to get the whole thing to just snap in place. And we've just got 4 screws to go in. And again, I think I'm going to use me replacement screws so that we've got a matching pair now, haven't we? And they'll both be using the crossheads, which is quite nice actually, because if you've had screws that have gone in and out a number of times and the head has got worn, then there's the fear of it getting stuck inside when the head gets stripped, which you don't want to happen because it's very difficult to get them back out. So that's it, that's our replacement done. In theory, quite a simple job really, and especially if you've got the right tools for the job. These 2 screwdrivers were great. It was handy having tweezers, although having ones that are a bit more like this would be better. That's the type that I got with a. See, this is an older kit that I got with the sort of standard ones, and that came with better tweezers. But to be honest, if you've got better thumbsticks, you got better thumbsticks. It's fine, isn't it? Right. So yeah, when they're in, good as new. Both of them looking really good. So go and get me a Switch. All right, so this thing here was my first taste of Hall sensor joysticks and just how good they are. So I will link the video up here for you to watch that one. It's a fantastic controller, really good. But what we'll do here is we'll just pop it out and attach our Joy-Cons to my Switch. Let's attach these and see if we can get them working, because there's no guarantee I've wired everything up correctly. Let's switch on. Right, so it's paired both of them. It's just popped up with paired there, so that's good. The settings, controllers and sensors, calibrate control sticks. So tilt and hold, the one you want to use. So we'll go with the left one first. So that's not quite right. So it's not working as expected. So you press X to calibrate it. Please only recalibrate. I mean, it's a good idea to calibrate when you've got a new one anyway. So we'll move it towards that side and release. Move it down and release. Left and release. Up, release. And then rotate just to kind of calibration complete. Now look at that. We've got our cross in the center. And even just like the slightest bit of movement on this moves it out of the way. Like it's really responsive. Okay, so now we can go back and we'll do the other stick. Now that one actually is saying it's all fine and calibrated, but seeing as it's a new stick, it's probably a good idea to calibrate it anyway, even though it says only do this if there's nothing wrong. Okay, but we'll go X to calibrate that one just to make sure. So to the right and release, the bottom, release, to the left, release. I don't know whether it matters, but I always obsess on lining it up perfectly before releasing. I always find this bit kind of tricky, the circular motion. There we go. So all fine, all really, really responsive. Slight movement to move to the side. Let's go back and back again, and we are all sorted. We could maybe update the controllers. I might have to go somewhere else. No, we're all right. Updating controller. I think that's probably something to do with the firmware. So that one's power is running low. Okay, the controllers. So I need to charge the controller. I mean, I'm assuming, does it get charged when it's connected? I mean, how else would you charge it? So it's probably being charged as we speak, I would hope. There we go. All sorted. I'll give it a test in a little bit. Now, we also have a little bonus extra that might come to nothing, but my brother, who I got the other two controllers off, also had these sort of off-brand Joy-Cons, shall we say. Now, actually, I laughed when I first saw them, but ergonomically, they feel really nice to hold. But the joysticks on these have also sadly drifted as well. Based on the curved surface on top, I'm suspecting, and the bulk of the controller, I'm suspecting it's a different type of stick that's inside. But I have got another kit with Switch joysticks in, so it's worth a look, isn't it? These thankfully have crosshead screws inside. I've got all my kit out now anyway, so there's no time like the present to investigate this one. And let's see what the separation process is like. It seems like it's held fairly securely, so again, I'm flying blind here, but I'm assuming it's another case of starting it here to separate it, or maybe here, and then we've got bits to sort of snap apart. I've definitely taken out all the screws. So let's see, it's along here. We'll separate the shell. There we go, I can feel that popping apart. Do you know, it's fun doing a narrative video. I've not done one for a while. I've started getting into just fudging my way along and then scripting it in hindsight afterwards. It seems to be like really secure in terms of how it's held on this bit. So I don't know whether there's like a little metal bit there. I don't know whether there's like a screw holding it or whatever, but we shall forge ahead. That separates it all. Seems like it's this corner that's holding. I did get that screw out. I suspect it might kind of hinge out. Whoa! Okay, that just popped off. Okay, so looking here for the other one, there's a little clip there. So it literally was just waiting for me to pull it so it'd pop out, which is what did happen. And nothing had gone wrong there, which is a relief. Look at inside here, it's a little bit less precision, isn't it, than the Nintendo one? Yeah, looking in the gap there, the joystick's very, very different. So I don't think this is going to be a doable one. Do you know what we can do, though? Is we can get it out and give them a good clean and just see if that makes a difference. I've just spotted a screw there anyway. If they don't work, then what have we got to lose, hey? What we can do is we can get to the sticks, give them a good blast with compressed air, and go from there. I am still suspecting that there is a screw somewhere that I've not seen. Yeah, there we go. And these all appear to be exactly the same size screw, which is very handy. They're the same as the ones that hold the main frame together. Right, so that's popped out. That should just pull off the top. Sure, I've got a can of compressed air somewhere. Here we are. Pull it down. Spray. Pull it to the right. Spray. Pull it to the left. Spray. Who knows? It might work. While this is off, it's probably a little easier to get into the gaps and clean that up. So just a little bit of a brush off on there. I'm not going to be too meticulous with all of this because it might not even work. So get the cap back on, just push that down, get that flipped over and in, get everything in position so I can screw those bits back in. And before I even bother opening the red one, what I'll do is I'll get this one in and attach it and see if it picks it up. So we had another screw, it was just over near the battery. That slots in here. There was was it that trigger there was just slid into the gap. This goes in here and there's a little tab to help line it up. There we go. And then I think that's everything pretty much ready for going back together. So just line them up and push them together. It should just all pop in. It's all good. And then we'll get our screws in. Right, let's disconnect this one, pop that one in, and see if this makes any difference. Vibrating is paired, calibrate control sticks, do that one. Seems to be pretty well centered. No drift. Okay, well that's good. Right, I'll pop that to one side. You got like the weirdest Frankenstein switch going on at the moment with a big chunky left and the other right, but honestly, holding it like this, I've got to say, this one is much more comfortable to grip than that one, which is a surprise. It is like that's a much more secure fit on the console. This is a little bit wobbly, but yeah, these are worth saving. Let's have a go at the red one now then. It was taking me a while with my screwdriver, so this time, they're quite long screws, aren't they? I'll go with the electric screwdriver option. This thing is cool. It's even got like little lights at the end when you're undoing it, so you can see the area where you're screwing, which is very futuristic. And again, we'll just try and get them separated. And we know that on this side there is a clip about halfway down. So I'll try and make my way to that. There we go. So carefully take that off. I know that that little bit is going to fall off. That's no biggie. And I know where my screws are this time as well. So I'll just... And time to give it a blast with the air. And then we'll pull it all the way down, all the way up, all the way to the right and to the left. So if there's anything in there causing problems, that is now not gone, but more likely to be gone. Push that in place and start to reassemble. So we'll remove our official, put on our unofficial, calibrate control sticks. We're doing the right one this time. Oh, and again, that is looking perfect and zero drift. We'll go back. We will have a double check on the left one just in case that is great. That's perfect. Regarding the charge level on this that was low, if I just go into controllers at the bottom, we've got a slight issue. So as you see here, what should happen if we've got full charge on the console and on the left controller, then this one here should be sort of charging off those, but it's not getting any charge at all. And when I put it in the dock, these two charged fully, but nothing. And when I plugged the charger directly in here, it wasn't showing up with the little lightning bolt to show it was charging. So essentially, it's not charging. It's connected, but it's not charging. So I was thinking if we just switch that off there and disconnect. When we opened it up, there were two ribbons which connected to this bit. So I'm assuming it's one or both of those that wasn't quite seated correctly. So I'm going to have to open this up again and just take a little look. My suspicion is that I've just not seated one of those ribbons correctly, which that would be absolutely fine with me because it would be a quick fix. Because if it's not that, it's something a little more involved. So let's take this apart. So it is kind of annoying because we're going to have to get all the way into it again to get to those 2 points. It it might be this one. If it's this one, it'll be quite quick and easy, and it is near where the battery connection is. Now I'm just looking. I was suspecting the two ribbons, but now I look more closely. I don't think I've fully engaged the battery connector, which should really have been my first port of call. Yeah, so that just clicked in place slightly. So if you've got the same issue, hopefully it's just a case of you just haven't quite clicked the battery in. I mean, I'm not saying that is definitely what was the issue, but it's possibly what was the issue. And I suppose without putting the screws back in, I can give this a quick try now. Switch on. Go to controllers. Hey, there we go. Sorry if that was a bit loud. But there we go. We've got charge now. So it was literally a case of I just hadn't quite clicked that battery connector down enough, which I could have edited out of the video and not shown my incompetence. But you know, the whole point of these videos is to support people who are trying these things and maybe facing different problems. So if you do a similar job, like if you followed my video and I hadn't included that and then your battery wasn't charging, then that could have been some useful information. And even if like one person who ends up watching this video has that issue, then I've helped that one person. So that's good, right? Okay, so with that charging now, this should be working. So let's have a little bit of a play on a few different games and see how we go. Now, I normally play this on the D-pad. Excuses, Joe. You just suck. But testing out the joysticks, they are feeling very, very responsive. They're a little bit tighter. Is that the right word? Like, there's a little bit more physical resistance when you're pushing against them than the standard Joy-Con sticks. Like the springs are a little tighter or whatever, but I like it. It doesn't feel like that's a bad thing. It kind of feels almost like it gives a little bit more control. Feels good. You can kind of drift and do the wiggle quite effectively. Let's try that. If that's working well for those boosts. So obviously first impressions are good, but with this drift, it's always a case of time will tell. So we'll see. But for now, they do feel slightly different. Like I say, they're sprung a little more tightly. They feel super responsive. Yeah, I like them.
And that's pretty much it. So short term, it feels good. They are very, very responsive, but obviously it's going to have to be a long-term thing to see if it lasts or not. But based on the joysticks in this, if it's anything like that, then it's sure to run really, really well. So the downside to these, and there's always got to be a downside, hasn't there? These are quite expensive compared to the existing thumbsticks that you'd install in a Joy-Con, but also the fact that now Nintendo offer to repair drifting Joy-Cons free of charge. So yeah, it does feel a little bit like, well, why would you spend extra? But then if these do live up to the promise and they do stay drift free and super responsive for years and years and years, then I'd say it's worth every penny. So let's see. And when it comes to these two, as a nice little side bonus, it just goes to show that even if you open something up and it's not what you expected, there might still be a fix in there. So if you've got something like this and they're drifted, just dismantle, get to the joystick, blow it with compressed air and hope for the best. As I said before, if you got things and they don't work anyway, what have you got to lose? So I have been meaning to show these off for a while, but actually this was a quick video because the one I'd been working on for this week, which is a new Game Boy Macro with an injection molded faceplate, has been taking me a bit longer to edit than I planned, and I want it to be a really good video. So that one is now going to be coming next week. I hope this one will tide you over in the meantime, and if you've not checked it out yet, I released a video midweek on an awesome new Game Boy Advance music creation software called Stepper. Definitely check that out. I'll link it up here and you can take a look. If you ever fancy doing any modding yourself, Z Labs is a good place for you to check out. You can get a discount of 5% if you use the code JoeBleeps. And if you use my link in the description, I'll get a little bit of extra support for my channel and I can keep making videos like this. So please check that out and thank you very much for your support. Like, subscribe, comment, sign up for notifications, keep building this channel up and I can keep making videos. So that's it from me for now. If you want to stick around, there should be some more videos popping up around here and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.